Good evening. My name is Paul Mangum, I'm the board chair for Sunrise School Division. Welcome to our regular board meeting for November the 5th. I'm going to call our meeting to order, and we are going to have O Canada by Hazel Ridge School. Please stand if you can do so. Thank you to Hazel Ridge School. That was awesome. Lorraine, make sure you let them know that. We have a treaty acknowledgement. I'm going to ask Trustee Rowan to please read out our treaty acknowledgement, please.
We acknowledge the traditional land upon which Sunrise School Division resides as Treaty 1 territory. We honor our partnership with Canada's original peoples and respect the gifts of Indigenous history, culture, and language. We commit to moving forward in partnership with our communities in a spirit of collaboration and reconciliation.
Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate it. Just to introduce ourselves, and so for the people in the room as well, it's Paul Mangum. I'm from the ward of Powerview, and with us tonight we have Superintendent Reed, we have Secretary Treasurer Thiessen, we have Assistant Superintendent Feelberg, we have Trustee Wilson, Trustee Nicol, Trustee Boytson, Trustee Dent, Trustee Rowan, Trustee Harris, and we have our board support is Sarah. Two trustees cannot make it tonight. That's Trustee Rowland and Trustee Smith. They're not here, so there's 7 of us here tonight. In the room as well, we have our STA President, Serena, and we're glad to see you back here, Serena, thanks. And we have, I hope I say your name, it's Brina Demers from Hazel Ridge. She's going to be coming up here and giving us a great report that we're going to probably ask her 100 questions to. Just teasing you, Brina, welcome. We also have 2 gentlemen here from the Edward Schreyer area. I forgot your names already, guys. One, just to your names. So this is just for the people that are listening online. So Kevin and Chris are here, and they just talked to me that they have a question. They're interested in a football team at Edward Schreyer School. So they're going to get a chance to ask a question during a question period, and we'll do a little bit of sharing with them. But anyways, everyone welcome, and welcome to the people that are online. So we're going to the adoption of the agenda. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Trustee Dent and seconded by Trustee Rowan. Any questions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. Thanks, it passed 7-0. Chair's comments. A reminder to everybody online, please send your questions to jody.thiessen@sunrisesd.ca. Put your name and address on the sender to be included, and we'll get to your questions when we come up with question period. I'm going to open the floor to everyone here about share a story. Trustees, share a story. Trustee Boytson.
Just a couple of things I've got. On October 21st, Sunrise was represented at the Northeastern Municipal Forum hosted by the Arm of Whitemouth. One of the presenters, the Dr. Selena Papetti, spoke about rural medical education and physician recruitment. Her clinic is very active in various programs to recruit physicians and spoke about how municipalities can maximize recruitment efforts. Very informative. Trustee Harris presented the Sunrise Report, and the next forum will be hosted by the ARM of Springfield in February. And last week, Manitoba School Boards Association held the regional meeting. On Friday, Region 3, represented by member school boards from Lord Selkirk, St. River, Hanover, Interlake, Lakeshore, Evergreen, White Shell, DSFM, and Sunrise, had a full-day agenda covering financials, auditor's report, resolutions, as well as regional roundtable discussions. Proudly, our own trustee Magnan is the Region 3 director, and he provided 7 questions for attendees to share with respect to their own divisions. Very engaging conversations took place, lots of great sharing. Thanks, Paul, for your part in organizing and sharing a day that gives trustees the opportunity to hear what is happening in our neighboring school divisions. Thanks.
Thanks, Raina. Anyone else? Trustee Wilson?
On October 28th, I toured Lac du Bonnet Senior School with the principal, Kim Stevenson. What a wonderful facility for our students. I was impressed with the wide variety of options available for students and the well-equipped facilities for the options such as carpentry, theater, and the arts. In the yard, the students had made cedar benches and were involved in designing the beautiful ceramic tops for a number of tables. They're budgeting to do 1 table a year. I visited a number of the classrooms and observed a high level of student engagement in the learning activities from applied mathematics to carpentry. The custodial staff had done an amazing job in terms of the cleanliness of the school. The floors actually shone. On Tuesday, October the 29th, I visited New Directions with Tanis Magnuson in Lac du Bonnet. As you are aware, there are 4 adult learning centers in Sunrise School Division: Empower, New Directions, Agassiz, and Springfield. The stats for this September and October of 2024 indicate that in the 4 programs, there are 179 learners that have completed 112 courses, which equals 96.5 credits. And there have been 8 graduates already. Very impressive. Tanis did indicate that there is a need for 6 new laptops for the teachers, an upgrade for 5 desktops, and an upgrade for her laptop. But I'll tell you, things were just humming. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Anyone else? Trustee Nicol?
Whitemouth had a very spirited Spirit Week last week, not this last week. Today I was at the school, and all the classes are getting busy for Remembrance Day. Each class puts on, for Remembrance Day, each class puts on something for Remembrance Day, and then Remembrance Day would be on Friday, 10:30, so if you're around, you can watch. This is not dealing with the school, but our holiday train that always comes to Whitemouth will be coming to Whitemouth. Unfortunately, it's on the same day as we have a meeting here. I would like to ask you to change it, but I'm not going to. We'll meet there. It is December the 3rd at 7 o'clock. Sometimes they're out a half an hour, but usually they are pretty close. So anybody that's interested in coming, make sure you're on December the 3rd.
Thanks, Trustee Nicol. Trustee Rowan?
I'd like to thank all the attendees that came to our divisional PAC meeting. I enjoyed sharing a meal with everyone and hearing about the aspects of how things work at the different PACs. I also appreciated the conversation that was sparked after the meeting. I attended the Oakbank Parents for Ukrainian Education meeting last night. They've set a date for their Malonka celebration. It will be held on January 11th, 2025. Tickets will be available soon for those wanting to attend, so keep an eye on their Facebook page for more information. Springfield Music Parents have their next meeting on Monday, November 18th at 7 p.m. This time the meeting will be held in the SCI band room. And finally, I'm looking forward to our school tours on Thursday. Many of the sites we will be visiting are ones I haven't been to before, and I'm looking forward to learning about some of the great things they're doing for their students.
Thanks, Melissa. Anyone else? I have a couple things to share. First of all, about our divisional PD day. Trevor, 850 staff that were there, and it was the first time for many of them to meet you. And I think that you did a great job in kind of setting a culture and what you believe, and you spoke very well. So that was my highlight, Trev, certainly of the day. It was very well organized, and thanks to everybody for the work that all of our staff did. And I think this is one of the times that I've realized that going to a divisional day where Sunrise did all of their own PD. That's correct, right? Is that all of the people pretty well, mostly? So overwhelmingly most did. Sunrise people were giving the PD. That was pretty impressive. So kudos to our staff, Serena, and your people about going out and doing that. That was awesome. On the 21st, I got to take my captain's hockey team, the captains of my hockey team, to the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. Brings in all captains from their 38 teams, and do some leadership with the students, and put on by the Winnipeg High School Hockey League. So it was a great afternoon of learning for our kids and some leadership stuff. So that was good. Melissa, you already mentioned about our divisional PAC meeting. I didn't know what to expect, and I was extremely impressed with the engagement that we had with our members, and an overwhelmingly support about let's do this again. They like the idea about us engaging. And for people that are out there, we do have in our strategic plan talks about how the board is engaging with the community. Certainly this is one way of doing that and getting information with our PAC, so kudos. And I can't go without saying is that it's a great time when you get to Poverty School on Halloween. And so it's a kindergarten to grade 12 school, and there's 430 kids, and just before lunch, and I got there, is they have the costume walk where the kids in kindergarten walk up and down the long hallway, and everybody's out in the hallway, and they go down into the high school end. And if there's 440 kids in the school, including high school, they must have had 400 kids that were in costume, high school kids as well, and teachers, and I'm sure the teachers did this, and staff all across. It was a great day in schools, and kudos to the work that everybody does around those days, because it is to try to temper a little bit of that excitement that goes on in those days. But it was a great day. So I know that it happened in Powerview and all of our other schools. So a big thank you to everybody that was involved in doing that. Have I missed anyone? Okay, thanks. We now have STA. So Trev, I'm going to turn this over to you, and I'll let you introduce the STA.
Just want to welcome Serena, who's going to share with us this evening on the STA Contractual PD Fund, and probably she's going to slide in a few other news and notes, I'm sure. Just want to recognize that, just sort of early in my tenure, I would say that Serena and I are developing a positive relationship that's, hopefully in the long term, both going to benefit the division and the Sunrise Teachers Association. And we're looking forward to our first STA liaison meeting coming up on November the 18th, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to echo what Trevor said. I absolutely have been enjoying every moment that I get to speak with you about issues, because it's never really an issue. It's finding out where we have common ground, and we have a lot of common ground. And so, I do much appreciate it. So I wanted to give you the thank you so much. Okay, so if we are ready, I feel like I'm really loud. Am I really loud? Okay.
Just remember about the 2,000 people that are watching.
Right. All right, so here we go. You guys have the slide. I have mine too, so I'll try and give you a cue when I'm going to flip over. But I'm here to talk about the STA and the SSD contractual PD for last year. So the topics that I'll be talking to you about today are the rationale for the PD fund, the overview, the funding criteria, the PD committee, PD categories, trends in PD, the financials for last year, and then challenges and recommendations. So we'll flip to the next slide. Thank you. So basically, why should we have a PD fund? I call it a PD fund, but for those that don't know what the acronym is, it's Professional Development Fund. So why is it important for us to have this? It is because we want to make sure that we have the most current, most up-to-date information into the teachers' hands that we possibly could in order to facilitate their teaching in their classroom. So if they have specific needs that their students are exhibiting, we want to make sure that they have that background and that knowledge and that comprehension in order to help facilitate that, not dealing, but helping teach those students that have specific needs. It is also part of our professional learning goals or plans. We call those PLPs. So we have certain plans that we have to do every year, and we want to make sure that the teachers are getting the professional development in those areas that they choose to do the professional learning plan on. It's also helping to enhance learning opportunities. So basically, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that the teachers are up to date with the most current information possible to help them when they go into the classroom to teach whatever subject matter, whatever age, and whatever curriculum that they are doing. So to the overview. Slide. The PD Fund, or otherwise known as the Contractual Professional Development Fund, was created with Sunrise School Division and the Sunrise Teachers Association in 2018 and 2020 school year. I kept that in there because even though we do have a new collective agreement that was ratified this August, we do honor, and it has been said in this collective agreement, that we are honoring all the funding that we agreed to in the 2018 to 2020 curriculum. So we're still working with a budget of $120,000. It is intended to stimulate individual professional growth and provide financial assistance to as many teachers as possible. I say as many teachers as possible because I only have $120,000. And so we'll get to the actual amounts teachers are allowed to claim, but you'll notice that I'm not able, with $120,000, if all teachers in Sunrise School Division were to apply, I wouldn't have enough funding for that. So it is on a first-come, first-served basis. But it is to assist the teachers in conferences, seminars, webinars, workshops, whatever the teachers believe that they feel that they need for their professional growth, and it's autonomy-based, so it's whatever they feel that they would be beneficial to them in their teaching. So, funding criteria. At least one of the following criteria will be used to decide if a teacher gets approved on their PD application. So it's divisional goals, school goals, teacher professional learning plans, or the teaching assignment. There is an oversight, and there's a two-layer oversight to all PD applications, and that is the first thing that has to be done is that the teacher has to fill out the form, the application, and they have to get their principal to sign off on it. If it is a principal that would like to go on the PD, or a clinician, or a program leader, then they have to get the superintendent to sign off on it. Once that is done, the application comes to myself and the PD chair, and then we look over the application to make sure that everything is there that needs to be there. So the first oversight is the principal or superintendent, and then the second oversight is myself and the PD chair. So then, before we move on to the next slide, there is a funding time frame that we use. Sorry, Trevor. This is the one I'm adding in there to keep it spicy. There is a funding timeline. So our fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th. And so anything that falls in there gets funding out of that 120 for that last fiscal year. So in this presentation that I'm doing for you today, it would be all the applications that came through from July 1st until June 30th. So I just wanted to give maybe Trevor you the heads up, because hypothetically, what do we do if there's a PD that spans June 28th to July 2nd? But that's not for this presentation. That'll be for next year's presentation. So hopefully we'll be able to coordinate an answer for you guys by then. Also, when it comes to funding, we do give all teachers, if they are term or permanent, money. So it's $650 for term and permanent.
But if you are a permanent teacher, you get the extra bonus of choosing $1,650 for your PD instead of the $650. And I'll explain what the difference is in a few slides down in the presentation. So back to the PD committee and the responsibilities. The Contractual Professional Development Fund Committee shall consist up to 5 people. So it's myself as the president, and then it's the PD chair, and then it could be up to 3 more people, but it doesn't have to be. So the duties and responsibilities. We need to ensure that the functions are outlined in the collective agreement. We have to review and make decisions on individual applications, and sometimes not all applications get approved. If it comes in after the deadline, I can approve it because according to my guidelines and each application, it says it here in nice big red letters that it has to come in prior to the PD. So, and then it has to be signed by the principal or the superintendent, so there are certain regulations that we do have to abide by. And then part of my duties is to present to the board once a year, which is what I'm doing today. All right, so the categories and the funding amounts. If a teacher wants to attend a PD, so a professional development event that is actually in the province of Manitoba, they do qualify for up to $650. Now, if that teacher also needs a sub to take over for them when they leave the classroom, they can qualify up to $900. So they do get a little bit extra to cover the cost of a sub. If a teacher, a permanent teacher this is now, would like to apply for out of town, they can qualify up to $1,650, plus they get an additional 3 days worth of sub. Because we do realize there might be a travel day in there, and that we don't want to disqualify them from going because there's not enough money for them to attend their PD if it's out of town. There are university courses that a lot of teachers attend, and so we do give up to $650 for them to do that. We also do, and this is new in the last couple of years, that we are providing money for PD resources because we do realize that sometimes schools just don't have the extra money for a specific resource for a teacher, and we want to make sure the teachers are getting what they feel they need for resources. So we do give them up to $100 to buy like a book, or say, for example, one classroom is doing like a Words Their Way program, and they would need to buy the resources for that, then this would qualify. So for total number, we had 136 applications last year. We had 2 cancellations thus far, and then we had a total of 26 applications that didn't submit their receipts in. So there could be more cancellations in that 26, or the teachers could have just chosen not to submit their expenses and they're just going to pay for that PD out of their own pocket. But that's kind of where we are with the numbers right now. There's 26 unaccounted for, 2 cancellations for a total of 136. If we break it down a little bit further, we get for local in the province of Manitoba 88 applications. We got 1 for professional resources. We got 20 for out of town, and that's our cap for out of town. We don't ever allow more than 20 teachers to go out of town. University courses, there was 25, and again, cancellations 2 to make a total of 136. So again, just to clarify, if you are a term teacher, regardless of your FTE, you can get up to $650, but if you are a permanent teacher, you can choose the out-of-town as $1,650. So trends. There are still teachers taking university classes and upgrading their skills, and I think that's a win-win. We do want to make sure that our teachers in Sunrise have the best of the best and the most up-to-date information, so this is critical in their development as a teacher. We do have a lot of trauma, mental health, wellness, and emotional regulation events that teachers are going on, and kudos to Lars and Patty. You guys are on that because I know a lot of clinicians are really up to date on what's happening, and they go on a lot of these PD events to get their education. So that's fantastic. There's conferences, literacy, technology, physical education, Orton Gillingham. I brought one of my binders. There's actually 2 binders like this that I have all the PD claims from last year. This is just like this binder plus another from last year, and it tells everything that teachers are going on. So There's university courses, like I said, all these things that are mentioned in there, so it's quite fulsome. And there's a large variety. So now down to the nitty-gritties, the dollars and the cents. So I put the last 2 years in here as well, along with the year that I'm speaking of, just to kind of give you a relation, or you can correlate the data between them. There is a significant difference, but we also had to go through COVID at that time too, so knock on wood, we never go back. But for last year, the MTSPD Day, otherwise known as SAGE, there was $19,726.21 spent. So that's an event where it happens in October. Teachers go to, it's a one-day event that's posted by SAGE Events, and they can claim up to $100 to attend. Some teachers do claim, some teachers don't claim, but this time around last year there was that amount of money spent on teachers attending that event. The amount of money that was actually committed from PD funds that I signed off on was $104,789.90. And then the exact amount that was paid out was $96,958.77. So it makes for a grand total of $116,684.98. Lots of numbers. So we are under our $120,000, but then you can see what has happened in the last couple years as well. So before we get to our challenges and recommendations, just to give you an overview of what teachers need to do when they apply for a PD. They have to fill out the first page of our PD application. Name, school they're associated with, when the PD is, what they hope to learn, how they're going to take that knowledge and use it back in the classroom, or use it to teach their colleagues in their schools. Then they also need to put in there on the second page the amounts that they think they're going to spend. So how much is the PD? How much money is it going to cost to drive there? Is there parking that they're going to have to pay out of pocket? Because what we don't want, we want to assist, the teachers to go on PDs. We don't want them to be out of pocket a lot of money. So whatever they're actually going to be out, we want to make sure that we can try and reimburse them so they can get the education that they need to bring back into the classroom to help teach the students that they have that year. On top of that, they also have to include a brochure. So because I was a phys ed teacher, I just ran off this brochure. It's the Sport for Life Summit that's going to be in Victoria, I think this one is, or this one that's like Quebec next year. So they have to include the brochure too. If they don't include the brochure, then I have to phone them up or email them back to get that information. So if we go to the next slide, that's part of the challenges. Sometimes the PD application itself is not filled out correctly. Sometimes there's not a signature by the superintendent, by the principal, by the teacher, because it's like the teacher forgot to get it and they sent it to me anyways. And sometimes they don't include the brochure. So I'm trying to train my members as much as possible to make sure that before they send it to me, to make sure that they just double check and that they have everything that they need to have in here. It just helps facilitate the speediness of giving them an answer if they've been approved or not. Sometimes I have to not approve teachers because their application has come in after the deadline and it has to come in before the deadline. Sometimes it comes in 2 days before the PD, and so it's quite challenging at times to get that approval letter done, but as long as it comes in before, I'm okay. If it comes in after, the committee just can't approve it. So those are part of the challenges. Finding volunteers to run the professional development fund. That was a little bit challenging in past years, but we do have a teacher that stepped up. This is all volunteer work, so she's taking on that role and she's going to help me, and she already has immensely, so kudos to Chris. Thank you very much. Recommendations, we have every January I put forward recommendations to actually change the guidelines, and there's an 8-page document as to the guidelines. to just make them easier to understand or to help with a problem that we have foreseen. The guidelines do state, and this is something that I'm still working with, like 30 days after your PD, you have to submit your receipts. So if I can go back to when the teacher fills out the application, I approve it, I give them an approval letter. That approval letter has my signature on it. I send that copy to the teacher. I also send a copy to Trevor. Trevor signs off on it after he reads through the package, and then that information goes to the business center. After the teacher has their PD, it is their responsibility to hand in that approval letter with all the original receipts, and it has to be itemized receipts, plus an expense claim form. And then once they have that, they'll send it over to Andrea Zieske at the Business Center. She'll correlate that with Trevor's letter and then get the teacher reimbursed. So that's kind of the process that we go by, but there is this 30 days that we do have in our guidelines, and one issue that we're finding is that teachers that are doing especially a university course that ends at the end of June, they don't get their transcripts or their marks until after that, like sometimes August. And our fiscal year ends at the end of June. I know Andrea has been very gracious, and she does process them into the first week roughly of July, but it's hard when I approve them for that fiscal year and they don't get transcripts and marks until August to get them paid. So sometimes those funds do come out of the next year's budget. Questions? And I'm a little concerned because I'm seeing reading faces here, so there might be some humdingers.
Thanks, Serena. We appreciate it. Anybody questions with Serena? Trustee Dent.
Just wondering, being a little bit more cost prohibitive, if you're looking at doing like a license for a online training session, so it's something that can reach maybe a mass amount of your teachers for maybe where we're not looking then at needing to allocate dollars for travel and accommodations and things like that.
Like, are you talking about doing professional development online?
Yeah, correct. So sometimes you're able to, some companies or whatever will allow you to buy a license for a month to have X amount of people log on within that time frame to get the benefit of the training, and then therefore that they're skilled up with maybe not requiring to travel and maybe not requiring the additional staffing support for to cover their absence.
Yeah, awesome. I'll keep that on my list to look out for too. This is the first I'm hearing of it, so it hasn't come across my desk before, I should say. But I'll keep my eyes and ears open for that, because that's a really good way to save some money.
Trustee Wilson?
Is there any vehicle for sharing what they learn at the various conferences? Like, do they do a written report back? Is that shared with staff? How is that handled?
So on their PD application, it always says, how are you planning on using this information? So in case the camera is watching, I'll just cover the person's name. I'm a little bit loud, so I'll keep it quiet. That they do plan on taking this information back, and they're going to speak at their next staff meeting and inform the rest of the staff there what they learned in that PD seminar. Yeah. Other ones will do something different. They might do a grade group level, and that they'll teach it to their grade group because it was grade group specific. Some others plan on doing a seminar or a workshop if it's like, it could be phys ed related. So they do have some accountability to bring that back. For the PDs that they're out of town, that I have received, because everyone is supposed to be giving me a little paragraph summation about what they learned and how they're going to incorporate that. And so I've been pretty successful as getting those back to me this past year too. Welcome.
Anyone else? Serena, that would be my question as well. So I I think the investment is great for us, and I think that PD is extremely important, coming from an education background. What you said is that we want to make sure that teachers are up to date. So do we want to make sure. But how do we know that learning or sharing what Trustee Wilson is doing is going on? How do we know that? How do we know that there's sharing going on, or there's some learning that's going on, or I guess my question I'm always asking is, so the investment is there, and we do want our teachers to learn, which is great. How do we know? Because right now there's about 33% of our teachers are doing it, so 136 out of 375, somewhere around there, right? So it's about a third of our teachers. So a third of our teachers are doing it. I don't know how many of those 136 are doing it every year. And if they are doing it every year, then it's fewer teachers, fewer numbers of that are going out. But yeah, how do we know? How do we know that? How do you know? And by telling us then that, is this effective?
So that's a really great question. I knew that you were going to have some humdingers, some prepared. So there are multiple ways. You can see it incorporated into the classroom right away when they do finish their PD. They're taking that knowledge and implementing it into their programming. They've said that. There are other colleagues that have said that. I have not been able to go to the classroom to witness that, but I'm trusting them on them telling me that this is happening. They also, in some of these, they're using it with the students. So there's one specific program where they were wanting to get, I believe it was like kayaking, rescue water, kayaking experience, because every year this teacher takes a group of kids out kayaking. So right away, that's totally, you can approve that right away because you can actually see the teacher using the knowledge that they got from that program. They do have to report back if it's out of town, so there's a little blurb about what they learned. But this is an area where I am not opposed to, speaking further on, because I do know of some other divisions that do have different accountability measures in place to actually make sure that that every teacher that's taking or having use of this money is implementing it and sharing it with as many people as possible. So right now, I'm taking the teachers on their word. I'm taking teachers saying, oh, I saw so-and-so, they did this great, presentation on a PD that they went on. So that's what right now is the accountability, along with the paragraph that they have to fill out if it's an out-of-town.
So can I get you to work, I know that there's an STA liaison meeting, I think, that we talked about coming up.
18th.
Okay, so can I get you to work with Trevor and, is the trustee Diane?
Yeah.
Is it Diane Rowland?
Yeah.
So can I get you to work with our group and kind of talk a little bit about, I'm not so worried about the accountability, but I guess the question is, how do we know? How do we know what, that there's learning going on? It's not an easy way to go ahead and define, but I think that we're always looking at, how do we know that, I'm going to leave it to you, is that if you can have that conversation, certainly is that,
So like one mechanism is that when the teachers fill out all their paperwork in order to get their money back, is that then they have to attach that I did a presentation at my next staff meeting and I presented to the staff on, what I took. That is how some divisions are ensuring that that information is disseminated to as many people as possible. So that could be a mechanism, but definitely I have it on the list here to talk at our next liaison meeting and kind of figure out how we as Sunrise want to go about making sure that information is shared, because I believe information is power. And because if I go on a PD as a phys ed teacher, I know there's multiple phys ed teachers in Sunrise, they might benefit from that too.
Yeah, it's about sharing with people. As soon as somebody can find out that somebody in Whitemouth went to something and they learned this, is that why couldn't somebody in Oak Bank and in Powerview and whatever find out from this teacher about some of that stuff? So the power of sharing, certainly. Can I ask you one more, Zinger?
Absolutely.
So our PD day. So we had the divisional PD day a couple weeks ago. Tell us your thoughts.
That is a zinger. No, it was so nice. So what I'm hearing is from a lot of teachers, it was nice not only to see teachers in the same room at the same time, it was nice to see all divisional employees in the same room at the same time. So it was just to see everybody and hear everybody and the hum and that kind of, the vibe was really good. And then the way everyone was broken up into different groups to go find what they wanted to do, well, to find a PD was great. Perhaps maybe a little bit more autonomy over the PD they would like to take versus the PD they were put into, perhaps, going forward. But other than that, they really appreciated having that day where we can get together and have this time to learn and visit and the speaker, Kevin, was amazing. So many people said they absolutely thoroughly enjoyed listening to him.
So if you can elaborate that, not tonight, but at our STA liaison meeting, we'd love you to go ahead and do that. I do think we have Trustee Harris with a question.
3 quickies. Can a teacher request more than one PD event?
They can, but there's a maximum. So, for example, like a lot of clinicians, their PDs, some of them are $100, $50, $200. So some of them can go on multiple PDs a year, but they can't exceed the $650.
So a teacher who uses $650, that's it for them for the year.
Correct.
Lastly, what happens to the unspent funds?
That is a really good question, because if we go back to some slides, you know, 2021, 22, we only spent 50, we had 120. 2022, 2023, we only spent 77, and we had 120. This year we're short, like we didn't spend roughly about 3,300. That money lies still with the division. So even though I have autonomy to approve the PD, the money I don't ever touch. I don't have the keys to that box. It's all left with the division. So as long as I stay in my 120,000 that I approve, if I'm under that, then the money still stays with the division. Does that make sense?
That's the answer I wanted to hear. What happens when you go over?
That is a really good question again. So I think we were actually in this room last year when I asked that question to Kathy. And I said, Kathy, like, can we roll any of this money over? What if I go over next year? Like, what's going to happen? And my best recollection was that she said, we've never gone over, so I guess we'll see, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We haven't gotten there yet, but I'm only $3,300 short of getting to that goal. So that could be another thing on our liaison meeting, is what happens if we go over?
I thought my recollection was that we take it out of your salary if you went over, so I just thought that I just wanted to share that. No, I'm just kidding, obviously. Those are great conversations to have at STA liaison, for sure. Anyone else? Do you want to end anything? Well, Serena, thanks for coming out. We appreciate this. Lots of good information as to where things are going. Thanks for sharing, certainly, about the divisional day as to where things are going. We're always going to ask questions to see, how we can always work to improve things. But as a board, we thought that we were pretty happy with how things went on a divisional day. But thanks for sharing, certainly, about this. And yeah, we appreciate you being at our meetings and bringing voice on behalf of the teachers. Thank you.
Awesome, and thank you so much for letting me attend. Things are quieting down a bit, so I should be able to be here at more meetings. I, oddly enough, do miss them, and I miss seeing you all when I'm not here.
Thanks, Rena. We're going to move on to Hazel Ridge School, and Trev, I'm going to let you introduce.
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research in some spare time today, and I noticed that Hazel Ridge School wasn't on the board agendas last year. And so Brina started in September 23 with us, and so she has not had the opportunity to present to the board. So many of you are probably meeting her in this format well, all of you would be meeting her in this format for the first time. So yeah, Brina did start with us last year in September 2023 at Hazel Ridge School. Quickly established herself as a solid educational leader for us. And we were actually just talking at one of our recent SELT meetings that I gave her the compliment. I appreciate the voice and perspective that she brings to our divisional SELT meetings, and she's quickly establishing herself as a very credible voice in that room. So looking forward to hearing from her this evening. Thank you. Welcome.
Okay, well, that was a really nice introduction, so thank you. And thank you for having me here tonight. So as Trevor said, my name is Brina Demers, and I am the principal, the resource teacher, and the music teacher at Hazel Ridge this year. This is my second year at the school and my second year in the division. And for me, moving to Sunrise has meant that I get to teach and work in the community I live in, which is a real honor and privilege for me. So to my next slide there. Tonight, I'm going to walk you through our school goal, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it's going. On our next slide. So first, I'm going to give you a little snapshot of Hazel Ridge School. We're a team of 10 staff members, including full and part-time teachers, 1 educational assistant, a full-time secretary, a part-time librarian, and a part-time custodian. Working in a small school means that we all wear many hats, and we need to be flexible and lend a helping hand whenever and however needed. At a recent PDA day, I attended a session with Dr. Jody Carrington. She emphasized that it takes a connected village to achieve great things. This is exactly how Hazel Ridge operates. It's a close-knit group of staff, students, and community members working together so each student can reach their full potential. This year at Hazel Ridge, we have 54 students in kindergarten to grade 5. 1 of our students walks to school. 4 of them are driven by parents because they are out of catchment school of choice, and the remaining 49 take one of the 2 buses to and from school. We use a multi-grade approach for our students in grades 1 to 5. Working at Hazel Ridge means getting the opportunity to know each and every student and their families. We have 4 classrooms, 1 of which doubles as a library. We have a small resource room and a small gym, which serves not only as a gym, but also as a music room and a multi-purpose room. The secretary and I share an office, and our staff room, which also doubles as a meeting room and resource space, is large enough for 8 people to eat lunch at one time. So, on to the next slide. So this is why I'm here tonight, is to share the school goal. So our school goal is by June 2025, students will show increased independence and fluency in using literacy conventions and applying word and vocabulary strategies in alignment with the divisional literacy reading and writing progressions. This goal builds on our past achievements while zeroing in on the specific areas of grammar and spelling where we saw room for growth. Next slide. Okay, so these are the Sunrise literacy progressions, and I want to speak to them as they're part of our school goal. There are 4 progressions, a kindergarten to grade 3 and a grades 4 to 8 writing progression and reading progression. These progressions have been around for a while now and were recently revised by the literacy lead teachers with the support of committees. One of our staff members, Larissa Robertson, was a part of this committee. The purpose of these progressions is to track student literacy data and inform teachers' next steps to provide direct, explicit teaching based upon the needs of their students. These progressions also help inform student services teachers of the needs in individual classrooms or grade levels. Additionally, since ELA is difficult to teach, these progressions provide teachers with direct outcomes to teach either whole class or small group and help to keep expectations similar between teachers and schools in the division. There is a divisional expectation that all literacy teachers in the division use these progressions and update them throughout the year, especially at report card time. The division is now moving these progressions online through existing PowerSchool and Clever systems, and our school was part of that pilot project last year. Okay, next slide. So, how did we come to our school goal? We met in May and we looked at a bunch of data we had collected, and that included samples of student work, such as writing like this, report card and tracking data, In writing samples, we saw the improvement of student writing in aspects of quantity and quality of thoughts and amount of text. However, we noticed that the advancement of grammar and spelling hadn't grown in the same way. That's why we made the school go we did. We wanted to be intentional about focusing on these specific areas. So next slide. To support this goal, we use a variety of strategies and resources, largely funded by our school-based decision-making money. Central to our approach is comprehensive literacy. This model includes daily reading and writing instruction, word work, and differentiated needs-based learning through whole group, small group, and independent sessions. This year, one of our teachers, Sarah Dropko, is part of the Manitoba Rural Learning Consortium group focused on a comprehensive approach to teaching literacy. Additionally, collaboration is huge for us at Hazel Ridge School. The staff work closely together to share knowledge with each other. We have worked and continue to work closely with the divisional literacy lead teachers, Joanna Capteen and Natalie Ledee. Larissa Robertson, our grade 3-4 teacher, is on the Literacy Leaders Committee and was one of the presenters on the October 18th PD Day, sharing about literacy block instruction. So I'm now going to share ways that we see this unfold in our classrooms. In kindergarten, Amanda Crampton is using a multisensory and interactive approach, where students actively engage in reading and writing instruction and practice. At this point in kindergarten, the students are exploring a new phoneme or letter sound such as and the grapheme or a letter such as H that corresponds with it. They say it, sing it, read it, find it, trace it, write it, decorate it, and so on. They look for where the sound and letter live within words and poems. Around her classroom, you'll see a word wall that she's adapted to meet her learners' needs. Amanda has already seen growth in her students' knowledge of grapheme awareness, as evidenced through a recent letter and sound checklist. Next steps in this classroom are to revisit the phonemes that Amanda can see students need more practice with. And we'll move on to the 1-2 classroom. In Sarah Dropko's 1-2 classroom, lessons can range from phoneme practice, such as the example in the top center, where the student hears the phoneme, repeats it, and then sees and feels the shape of the corresponding letter. In a different lesson, such as the one pictured on the top right, Sarah is helping a student with sentence construction by guiding them to sound out words and use punctuation. The student was working on spelling dog, which has 3 sounds in it, so Sarah drew 3 lines for the student to write on and then helped the student sound out dog. D-a-g. Sarah needed to remind the student that every sentence requires punctuation, which prompted the student to add a period. Other times, the lesson is focused on blending drills, which can be done in many different ways, such as having the rhyme or the core of the word such as an, and changing the initial sound, so to go from an to pan or can. This can be extended to add on suffixes, such as cans or canine. The photo in the top left-hand corner shows how Sarah built this into read aloud time. As she read, she drew attention to the magic rhyme, in this case app, found in the book, and to the tail or suffix added to the rhyme. The students in this classroom will continue building on their knowledge to include letter blends, such as ST, and digraphs, such as sh. Okay, and then we'll run to the 3-4 classroom. In the grade 3-4 classroom, Larissa Robertson's literacy approach builds on these foundations. Here, students transition from learning to read and write to using these skills to learn. They practice phonemes, digraphs, and vocabulary through games like Boggle, while engaging in deeper discussions on sound rules and exceptions. For example, in the photos on the left-hand side, students are exploring the R digraph, spelled A-R. And often when students hear the sound, they choose to use the letter R to represent it. Together, the class created a list of words that included this digraph, which opened discussions for things like how it's sometimes the same and different in proper nouns and names. The list grew even further to include words such as remarkable, and ended with opportunities for a check-in where students tapped the word and practiced writing them on whiteboards. Students are learning to self and peer edit. One strategy for this is for them to highlight their own spelling and punctuation errors in their own work. encouraging self-correction and peer feedback, which also creates openings for conversation about vocabulary and conventions. This requires awareness and knowledge of spelling patterns and writing conventions, and provides them an opportunity to learn the answers to the spots they are aware they aren't so sure about. The two middle photos show examples of how this looks in different pieces of writing. Students circled the words they thought weren't spelled correctly or missing punctuation, such as the top where the student wanted me to know that she was likely missing a comma in that spot. Students work with Larissa to look at mentor texts. Through these lessons, Larissa talks through her own thinking and wonderings of where errors might be and why, and she connects it all back to what students are working on. And then to the 4-5 classroom. In Michelle's 4-5 classroom, students continue with the middle years progressions, advancing from learning skills to using them in their own work. Each student has a personal dictionary, such as the one seen in the top center, to record and check spellings. These students receive instruction in whole group and small group settings on everything from digraphs, advanced word patterns, contractions, prefixes, suffixes, homonyms, and synonyms, and so on. A lesson in Michelle's room might look something like this. In order to compare and consider vowel combinations that say A, such as AI or EIGH, the class might all engage in a T-chart activity, where they write AI in one heading and EIGH in the other, then add and sort words to the lists. As they do this, the class discusses what the words mean. They would then practice reading and writing these words in a variety of ways, such as games, writing intriguing sentences, engaging in writing exercises, finding the word patterns in text, and so on. Next steps in this class involve refining specific word choices and conventions as students prepare for middle school. All right, so where we're at. We're now 2 months into the school year. We've completed the divisional initial assessments, including the Words Their Way inventory, and completed reading records. The teachers conduct informal assessments frequently and are now collecting more of the formal assessment data. By mid-November, the literacy progression data is to be put on Clever, and the kindergarten eye assessment is due. Through analyzing the data we collect, we'll see where students are at, and we'll adjust groupings, offer additional literacy support, change targeted goals, and so on. As you can see from the previous slides, our teachers have a huge foundation of literacy knowledge to pull from. Having this school goal related to word work and conventions doesn't mean we don't do any of the great stuff we've been doing up until now, nor does it mean we'll be revolutionizing the word work program at Hazel Ridge School. What it does mean for us is that we identified an area that requires additional focus, attention, and energy. And then I think it's just my last slides. So thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, you can breathe now. You did awesome, Garina. So good for you. Thank you for coming and doing this. Do we have any questions for Brina, anyone? Trustee Nickel.
On your strategy and resources, you've got UFLI. What does that stand for?
That is the one that you had someone come and speak to you about a month ago. That's the University of Florida Institute. Yes, and it's that wonderful program that's in the book with the moving magnets and the... I think, what school? Whitemouth came to speak to you about it? Yeah. That's the same program. Yeah, so that's one of the resources we use. And it links really well with the John Richardson, with the Rhyme Magic. Like it works really well all together.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I'm just kind of curious to know what kind of question Paul's going to ask, because usually it's like, well, how do we know it's working, and what do you do? And you kind of answered all those questions. You identified that there was an issue, it wasn't working, and you found a way to teach that they would learn, and then you're identifying now that it is working. So I'm just curious to know, Paul, what you're going to ask. But I'm kind of sitting here as a proud parent because Brenda's from one of my schools, so I'm just smiling and enjoying.
Trustee Harris has a question.
Thanks for coming out. You mentioned right at the beginning that there's a full-time secretary now at Hazel Ridge. If my memory serves me correctly, the board, increased that from a 0.5 only. We doubled it? for this year, what has the parent reaction been to having someone answer the phone all the time?
It's been really nice to have that consistency, and so thank you for doing that as well. I believe it went from a 0.5 to a 0.75 somewhere, and then it was full-time. And it adds so much stability to our school. Before we had a full-time secretary, it was during the second half of the day, someone would have to be ready to go answer the door. And at the end of the day last year, I was teaching gym, so there was no one around. All the teachers were teaching. The educational assistants were busy where they needed to be. I was in the gym with my kids. So whoever was on prep had to be in their classrooms and also somehow get to the other side of the school, which isn't huge, but it's far enough that you can't see the door. So no one was answering the phone, nobody was able to check emails, and nobody was near that front door. And we seem to have people dropping off packages, we seem to have parents wanting to come in and check on things or pick up their kids last minute. So our own stress has gone down a lot, and we can do a much better job of what we need to do. And now parents can actually get a hold of somebody, one person that's there all the time consistently and can get the message where it needs to be. So it's been really, really great having her. And so thank you all for doing that for the school.
3 questions from me, Brina. One is the Trustee Boytson lift working?
The lift is wonderful. Yes, I love Trustee Boytson also. Just so you know, she's wonderful, and she's come to help me a lot. So thank you to the division as well, because coming in as a new person, I came in with no contacts. I had contacts that had taught my daughter or people that I knew in the community, but professionally I didn't know anyone. And so coming in and have people like Trustee Boytson coming to answer my questions, coming to check on the list and like talk with me for a few minutes and check on things meant a lot. So the lift is great. We haven't had anyone need to use it yet, but we know that when somebody does, like, they're going to be allowed to come and participate fully, and we know how to use it, so it'll be a nice experience. So yeah, I'm glad to have it.
Great. So my question is going to be about last year, Brina. So your goal this year certainly is talking about an increase in independency and fluency in literacy. So you talk about collaboration in your school. So what happened last year, and then what led you to this year's goal?
Last year, well, I went into that school goal. So that's what I inherited when I went in. So I'm not sure where it came from. I know that the staff at Hazel Ridge are incredibly passionate about literacy, like more passionate than I thought people could be. So they really are. They're amazing. And I think it's truly where they shine. So I lost my train of thought there. So we looked at the progressions. So the progressions are what guided this. And we looked and we saw, like, it's a different kind of focus. When you want kids to write more and you want them to share their thinking, you're talking more about what you're thinking, how to put that in words. And they got really, really good at being like, oh, this is my idea, I'm going to put it down on paper. And it was awesome. But the spelling wasn't changing. And so now they know how to put their thinking down on paper. They know how to share a story. But now all those pieces that make their thinking clear and easy to read, that's what we need to focus on. So.
All right, thank you. And we're in November now, and we're rolling into budget season, and hopefully I asked this question to all principals that are coming. So we now decide on a number of things with regard to dollars and cents. You've got 7 of the 9 trustees here. What is something that, as we're talking about budget, we should consider about Hazel Ridge School?
I felt like you were going to ask that question. I do have an answer. It starts with a thank you, though. As a small school, it's really great to be recognized as needing things that maybe big schools don't need, or that we don't fit the same formulas as big schools. So we can only stretch ourselves so far, and I can only be in so many parts of the hallway, for instance. So I appreciate that the board recognizes that small schools don't quite fit that large school formula, and we do need extra considerations. So one extra consideration we're coming into right now is that we have a slide that's broken, and we have 2 smart boards that need to be replaced. And to pay for all that would be an entire years worth of budget. And so we don't have that kind of money, and it would take years to save enough to replace the slide or to replace the smartboard. So my ask would be consideration and cost sharing some of those really big things that are coming up that would take us years to save for.
Thank you. So I'm opening the door for you so that when you, when I guess Trevor and Jody ask for information, please share that so that it comes back to us. I know that Trustee Boytson heard you loud and clear and won't let some of that go. But I think that if you don't ask, Brina, you know what, you won't find out. There's no saying that's something that we're going to be able to do, but we do want to hear from you as to what it is. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming out. You did a great job. I'm sure that you know, you can breathe and walk home, and you can look at your presentation online, and you can, you know what, see where it is. You did great. So thank you very much on behalf of all of us for coming out and spending some time and sharing about Hazel Ridge School. We appreciate it. Thanks. We are going to continue on with our meeting about minutes in 5.1. We have, be it resolved, the board adopt the October 15th regular board meeting minutes. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Trustee Nichols, second by Trustee Dent. Any questions to it? Hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 7-0. Thank you. Superintendent's report, Mr. Reid, floor is yours.
Thank you. Just kind of breezed through the report that I've provided, you know, all of you in advance. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about our Divisional Professional Development Day already. It's come up a couple times. I just want to highlight that as, you know, just over 800 staff that were there, we had almost 400 by the time, you know, we were able to close it off after it was support. Almost 400 people filled out the feedback form. Lots of good feedback there. Overwhelmingly positive for sure. Many people indicated that they enjoyed the day. Highlights were the keynote speakers and the sessions in the afternoon. Last question that I just asked the committee to put on there is, are you proud to be an employee of Sunrise School Division? And we had 97% of the people that filled out the feedback form indicate yes, they were proud to say that they were part of Sunrise, so that was nice. Again, something we've already referenced this evening, but just congratulations and bravo to the board for the DPAC meeting that was hosted. I think the clear indication of success there was every single person in attendance said that they would be willing to come back if the division hosted a similar event in the spring. So that's something for the board to consider. And just also a mention to our two administrators, Mr. Kevin Dell and Mr. Anthony Penner, who also attended the evening. So we did have a SELT meeting in October, of course, and I've provided the topics there that the principals covered during the day. I just want to highlight again that once again we've provided a feedback form to collect feedback from our administrators. We had the opportunity to review that this morning. About 50% of the administrators in attendance took the time to fill out the feedback form. And again, we're getting positive feedback that we are meeting their learning needs and we're hitting the right topics. So a couple of suggestions in there, and we were actually using those this morning to plan the November SELT meeting. And so that's great feedback for us to be getting as a leadership team. Just a quick reminder, Remembrance Day services will take place in our schools this Friday, and attached to the report separate there, we do have the schedule, so I would invite you to head to one of our local schools if you have the opportunity to do so. Several professional development meetings that were hosted in the last several weeks, the last 3 weeks here in the division. I've just listed those for you again. And then just a reminder to all of our families and to everyone that, hey, we've had a beautiful summer and a nice fall, but winter is coming. And with winter, sometimes that does mean some cold weather or storm closures that we have. And again, just a reminder for our trustees that prior to January 1st, we do need to revisit the cold weather policy or procedure, our cold weather procedure and our inclement weather procedure. And that was on our last agenda, and we will revisit that at our next policy meeting. Again, Had a chance to contact some other school divisions to see what direction that they were heading with their changes to the policy as a result of the new provincial teacher collective agreement. But just a reminder though, that won't mean any changes to our families or our students and how they interact on those days. That standard is being set for them. The impact would be the cold weather days and how we treat our staff. And so that would be the change that would be potentially coming there. And just one final thing that I didn't have the chance to put on a report because I actually just found out about it today. I don't know how something like this gets planned in the school division without me knowing, but it is a good thing. And that is on Tuesday, November the 12th, Sunrise School Division will be hosting their career fair. And just information for the trustees, if you wanted to check it out, the career fair will be at SCI from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock on Tuesday, November the 12th. And then they actually pack the whole thing up and they move it to Edward Schreyer for the afternoon. And so it will be in Edward Schreyer from 1:15 to 3:15 on Tuesday afternoon. So in the morning, the high school students at SCI get to attend, and in the afternoon, the high school students from Powerview, Whitemouth, Lac Du Bonny, and ESS get to attend. There are over 40 employers or trade groups that will be in attendance. So we're looking forward to that opportunity for high school students.
Thanks, Trevor. Anything for Trevor? Okay. Thank you. We have our board reporting schedule. It's there for information. Just a reminder about what's up. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, we'll keep moving on. Jody, Secretary Treasurer's report.
Yeah, should be loading up here shortly on the screen, I think. Technology is great when it works. Oh, it's loading. It's going to show. There we go. Okay, so to talk about what the operation departments have been up to, the report's been provided to you folks to review. There was a question from the board, I think last time Jason Ziprick made a presentation, and I just wanted to point out how many fuel types we have and the number of buses that we have. So in total, we have 49 diesel route buses, which means buses that are on our school or our routes to pick up students, active, doing it daily. We have 33 gas. The board has made a movement or a shift going from diesel to gas-fueled buses over the last decade. And then we have, in the most recent years, acquired 5 propane buses. So that's what our route buses are. And our spare buses are our older ones. We just noted that it's diesel. So our next, we ordered 7 buses. The next round of buses that'll be delivered shortly. 2 will be delivered this week. All 7 buses are gas powered. So we've made that shift away from diesel to gas. And talking with our counterparts at other school divisions, they're making that move as well. Sometimes it depends on their budget and the cost associated with the purchase, the capital cost associated with that purchase, but others are making that move as well. Other things that are going on, finance has been really, really busy with ensuring that the retro pay is going out, and I can confirm that everything is ready to be transmitted into our teachers' bank accounts for November 15th, and the final entries for the interest on the retro is being calculated as we speak and should be deposited before the end of the month. So kudos to finance for doing a lot of work. It's a lot of work for these calculations. We've had just over 500 employees that are entitled to retro pay. So it's a lot of reviewing, lots of calculating, lots of reports. So good on them. We were successful also during that period of time completing our student enrollment count and submitting that to the province as well. Other than that, I've had really good feedback from departments about the Divisional PD Day. Everybody, we talk about how it's a great opportunity for everybody to come together, and it was a really good opportunity to see our bus drivers in the morning attending. We did provide another day of training for our transportation department for URIS and various topics for the following week. only because some of those bus drivers were also used to coordinate staff to go from the various locations of Sunrise to the schools. So not all of them could have participated. So in the morning, we had everybody in attendance, and then the following week, they had their own professional development. But other than that, if anybody has questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks, Jody. Any questions for Jody? Thanks for the sharing that you did, Jody. That was good. So just confirm, our teachers can expect that the bulk of their back pay will happen on November the 15th, and then the interest on their back pay will happen on November the 30th.
Correct.
Serena, you got that? All right.
Excellent.
All right. Perfect. No, that's good. I just wanted to make sure that we were in understanding of it. Perfect. Thank you. Where are we? So board business, monthly enrollment. So that's there for information. Does anybody have any questions certainly about that? None? Okay. We have school carryover. There's information there. Any questions for Jody on the school carryover? Okay, it's there for information. Thanks, Jody, for doing that. The student engagement activity, that keeps on adding. You get added to stuff that's going on in our schools. Lots of things going on, Trevor, that you're noting in our schools. So thanks for that. Any questions on that? The list's getting longer and longer, and that's the information. Go ahead, Trev.
Not a question, of course, but just a comment. It's when you look at the list, we should say thank you to all of our frontline staff in our schools who are providing these opportunities for our students. It's a big list, and I remember when we first started generating this report last year, some of the trustees acknowledged that they really didn't have any idea that there was this much going on in our schools. And again, it is a long list, even though we've just started the school year. So thank you to all of our frontline staff in our schools for doing this for our students.
Yeah, great point, Trevor. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, 8.4, instructional material and a resource review. That's you, Trev.
Sure, I don't think there's anything new here. We did have a brief discussion about this at the last board meeting, and I said I would bring forward a more formal report, just highlighting the fact that when, our families, our students, our parents, our guardians, question whether or not our learning resources are appropriate, we do have a procedure for that, for those to be reviewed. So just provided some background information in the report and provided some links to, the request for reconsideration, and some criteria that is used and followed there. So just information for the board. If you have any questions, be happy to answer them.
Thanks for the sharing. Anything for Trevor? Appreciate it, Trevor. Good information there. Thanks. 8.5 is the Springfield Agricultural Society AGM Dinner and Awards Night. Just to let the public know and the people that are in here, one of the things that we're encouraging our trustees to do is about community engagement. Community engagement is get out into the community, do a lot of listening. Do a lot of listening, collect as much information as you can. You're making some real important decisions at a high level, as we put together budgets and policies. And one of the ways that we've decided to do this is through community engagement in our strat plan. And here's one opportunity to do this. And so this is you bringing this forward. Trustee Dent, did you want to comment on it at all?
There we go. Yeah, so the Springfield Ag Society has been around for just over 140 years. So it's a good amount of time. They always connect with us every year regarding their annual fair in July. And then they have their AGM in November. They've reached out to us in years past. I know I spoke there last year. They have other dignitaries there, including Ron Schuler was there last year, as well as Pat Therian. And they open the AGM to our students at École Dougald every year to come and perform. So I think it's a great opportunity for our students that's well received by the attendees.
Thanks. So I have a motion here for you, Sarah. Be it resolved that the board approve to sponsor Trustee Dent to attend the Springfield Agricultural AGM Dinner and Awards Banquet at the Dougald Community Club on November the 9th at a cost of $20. I don't know if there's any other trustees that are interested in going. Okay, so are you moving this, trustee Nickel?
No, but you said November the 9th, and here it says November the 8th.
I just bad eyes, and so it's November the 8th? All right, thanks for catching that. So I have a motion on the floor. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Moved by trustee Nichols, seconded by trustee Boytson. Any comments to this? Are we able to vote electronically? All right. Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. It passed with one abstention. Thank you, trustee Dent. Where are we? Capsule. So there's a capsule conference for trustees on April the 9th to the 11th. And so we have a motion, be it resolved, the board approve up to 2 trustees to attend the capsule conference April 9th to the 11th at the Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel in Banff, Alberta. I'll need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Boytson, seconded by trustee Wilson. Note with the trustees have not been identified as of yet, but this is just to get it onto the book so that we can identify trustees to attend. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. And it passed 7-0. Thank you. This is a Call Parview School Varsity Girls and Boys Tournament in Vida. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Parview School Varsity Girls and Boys Basketball Tournament in Vida, November the 29th and 30th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Moved by trustee Dent, seconded by trustee Rowan. Any questions to this? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 7-0. Thank you. This is a call 8.8 Edward Schreier Girls Hockey Tournament. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Edward Schreier School grades 9 to 12 Girls Hockey Tournament in Portage la Prairie, December 6th and 7th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Harris, seconded by trustee Rowan. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 7-0. 8.8, be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Edward Schreier School grades 9 to 12 Girls Hockey Tournament. Am I reading this wrong? No, okay. Sorry, I did that already. Okay, I'm on this. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Poverty School grades 7 and 8 trip to Quebec City, May 6th to 13th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Dent, seconded by trustee Boytson. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Passed 7-0. Thank you. 8.9. No. Where am I? 8.10. Thank you. Be it resolved that the board approve in principle the Edward Schreier School Grade 8 orchestra trip to the Moose Jaw Band and Choral Festival in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, May 11th to 13th, subject to the superintendent's approval. Move in a second, or moved by trustee Harris, seconded by trustee Rowan. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Lots of things going on. Sorry, this is tedious, but it's great to see that many things going on in our school division. It passed 7-0. We also have a canoe trip, 8/11. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Edward Schreier School senior year's canoe trip to Camp Stevens in Kenora on June 4th to 7th, subject to the superintendent's approval. Mover and seconder. Moved by trustee Harris, seconded by trustee Dent. Questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Sarah, you're moving through this great. Thank you. I jinxed it, didn't I, Sarah? All right. We just had to kick it, that's all. Thanks. Sarah passed 7-0. We just got so many of them going on. Now we've got Gillis School. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Gillis School grade 5 and 6 to Camp Cedarwood, June 12th and 13th, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Harris, seconded by trustee Boytson. Any questions? Camp Cedarwood. Hearing none, we'll vote. Seven, nothing. Thank you. Any Culpeper Schools trip to France? I'm going, man. Be it resolved, the board approve in principle the Culpeper Schools grades 10 to 12 trip to France. Trying to figure out how I put in land, bring a trustee. No, can't do that. Spring break 2026, subject to the superintendent's final approval. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Dent, seconded by trustee Nickel. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. It passed 7-0. You know what? Lots of things that are going on, which is great. And you know what? As you know, the last number of years, we didn't have as many of these things going on. And kudos to our staff for. This is a lot of work, you know, and taking these kids and doing a variety of different things from France to, yeah, pretty cool. So, you know, kudos to our staff for getting involved. And Trevor, like you said, lots of things going on in our schools. Okay, so we have some policy committee. So policy committee chair, trustee Rowan, anything you want to talk about before we get into? We have some policies that we had notice of motions. Anything about the policy committee meeting or anything that you want to share?
Thanks, Paul. There is, I guess, one thing that I just want to share. We're actually going to pull policy 2 from voting on it this evening. We changed the verbiage on it so that it aligned with the tree. However, in doing so, we actually removed the part about the board, and we want to make sure that the board is still present in making those budgetary decisions. So we're going to take a look at that again and bring it back to the board.
Did you say that is in line with the tree?
Yes, to align with the top statement.
Oh, okay, sorry. Brain, okay, thank you. Okay, so policy 2, you're withdrawing 817 policy 2?
Yes, we will look at it again and bring it back to the board for consideration at a later date.
Okay. So the first one is policy number 1. And right now we have on the floor, be it resolved, the board accept the recommendation changes to policy number as suggested by the policy committee. So I need a mover and a seconder to get it on the floor. Moved by trustee Dent, seconded by trustee Rowan. Comments to it. Trustee Nickel.
At this time, I'd like to divide the question. Every one of these I would like to vote on separately.
So let's get it up there so that we have it, so that we can understand. Okay, so, okay, I'll turn mine off very quickly, Don. So I think, Don, what you're asking for is, are you asking for what part to read? Talk me through what part you want to go ahead and vote on separately, please.
Everything that is read, I want everyone to think that every topic, like number 1, number 2, relevancy, that's to vote on that separately. Number 3, which is a different topic altogether, vote on that separately, and so on.
Okay, so process. Sarah, how can we do this to make it for you, easy for you, or it's not going to be easy for you? Go ahead, Jody.
I guess there's a couple options. There's an option of, yes, you can hear all the suggestions and vote on each one. or you treat it as this is a recommendation from the committee. We've passed the motion, it's on the floor, that we can talk about it. If nobody agrees with it, the motion then could be just left on the floor and defeated. Or the motion could come back with amendments to include the recommendations that Trustee Nickel has. So I don't know at this time if to comb our way through everything and have a motion on every recommendation is that the direction that Trustee Nickel would like to take? Oh, he's pulling up the manual.
Robert's Rules of Order, page 269, it says that I can ask to divide resolutions. I don't have to get permission from the board because it's automatic. The rules of Robert's Rules says that, and we're supposed to vote at each resolution. That's what the Robert's Rules of Order says in page 269.
So Trustee Nickel is right. He does have the ability is that when parts of the motion differ in value, you can go ahead and vote on each one. I'm just not sure that how easy it is for us to do this electronically to do that. Trustee Boyton.
I'm just thinking that if Don would, put forward what he'd like changed, we may be all fine with those changes, and then you can still just vote on the policy. So if you let us know what those are, there's enough policy committee people here that we might say, yeah, make the amendment, and then we can move forward with that policy.
So Don, go ahead then. Great suggestion. So go ahead, Don, with obviously the things that are in red, and we'll have them there. What you would like to amend, and go through it, and let's see where we get to.
Okay. First of all, I know this is going to take. I told you last meeting that I was going to talk quite a bit on this one. First of all, I know it's going to take a lot of time, but to me, policy is one of the most important things that we talk about. Also, when we change some policies, I think we have to look at other policies, so whatever we change does not contradict with policies that we've got somewhere else. So that's what I'm going to kind of lead with. First one I want to talk about is policy values, number 2. This has been as a policy for a number of years, and I don't understand why we want to take out relevancy. I know the minutes said it wasn't a clear understanding. I looked at the minutes and there was some explanation why you took it out. You said there was no clear understanding. I did look up the word relevancy, and I found out that it is Old English, not New English. Old English has a Y, the New English has an E. But my understanding is that if we take out relevancy, that means that gives the teacher the ability to teach anything they want. They can teach anything about horseshoeing or whatever it is they want because it's not relevant. To me, relevant means something that's relevant to the present day, something that's important. So that's why I don't like to see the relevancy taken out. I'd like to see that left in there. And I'm not understanding why that it can't be in there, because I think if at this time, if a teacher teaches something that is not relevant, I don't know how the principal can go to the teacher because they say, well, it was in there, they took it out, because everybody knows what's in there, or the principal should know what the values are in there, so that you take it out, and the teacher said, well, look, the school board decided that it wasn't important, so that's why I don't think it's important. So that's why I like to change that one, have relevancy put back in. Number 3, I'm not quite sure why you decided to take out creative problem solving. Creative problem solving, for those people that teach math and science, the whole course is problem solving. That's what we do. So now, that's the whole curriculum. And now we're saying we don't value that. And I don't understand how you can justify that to a math and a science teacher says that problem solving is not one of the things that is important to us. So that's why I would like to keep that problem solving in there. The other order you got in there, you added some things, whatever you added, I'm okay with that, but it's creative problem solving that I have some difficulty with. And, I would like to go back to number 2 again, just to know that in policy, policy 6.4 says to maintain a strong and relevant school system. If you look at the strategic plan that we have, it also uses the word relevant in discussing the plan. They say you should have relevant programming. So we got one policy, one strategic plan that use the word relevancy, and we don't want to put it as our values. Can you go down so that I can see the next one? Okay. And this one here, it says, focusing on strategic planning and governance. It doesn't say anything about our strategic plan is only dealing with education. It's not dealing with anything else. I believe that as a trustee, I'm responsible for the education part of it and the fiscal part of it. It did have the fiscal part of it when it says, it includes the fiscal part of it, but it doesn't include.
Are you talking about the 2 in the red part?
No, I see this. I'm not talking about that. Sorry about that.
So Don, I can take you through. Number 1 is not the staff. Are you okay with that? In the red part in number 1?
Oh, yeah. I like to see it in there, but it doesn't matter. I think that it explains better when you have the not the staff in there, but if it's out, that's okay with me too. I'm not.
Okay, so Don, I'm going to take you through it. Number 2 talks about all the red stuff that they put in there. Are you good with that change that they have?
No. I think that what we have in there, what they took out, tells us very, very clearly to the board that they should not micromanage. That there's the staff's business to do, and then there's the board business. When it says focusing on strategic plan and governance, I agree with that. I just think that the other 3 sentences explains a little bit better, and that's why it was in the first place. It will focus on long-term planning and not the administration part. So it clearly tells us do not micromanage. Let the superintendent and secretary do their job, and let us do our job, which is planning and governance. Fine?
Okay, so I think what we have is that there's 3 parts to it that you're looking for a friendly amendment, or you're looking for an amendment to it. The first one is that you want to include the word relevancy, that you would want to go ahead and do it. You want to put back in creative problem solving. And the third part is you don't want to strike out in number 2 what they've put there in red. Those are the 3 things that are there. Sorry, this one here. So, just so you know, go back. So relevancy is here, so he wants to keep that. He wants to keep in creative problem solving and go to the next page. He doesn't like this that you've got in here, this red. So the question is to the group. He's asking for an amendment. You can agree to the amendment or not agree to the amendment. So he's asking for the first amendment. So the First Amendment talks about relevancy. Are you good with that? I can't remember who moved this and didn't. Okay, the 2 of you. Choices are, so here's the choices. we can do this, we can go through this debate here, or Don can go back to the policy committee and the policy committee can have a look at it. Your choice is policy committee.
I think I'd prefer the latter choice. This is the first policy that we're bringing forward, and I take it that there's going to be further conversation on the next few policies that we're here to vote on as well. So I would like to take that back as a group.
Boyson?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, because then instead of going through each one like this, we can take your information, take it back, and then we can come forward with why we made that change. You know, you're kind of telling us why you think it should be, and then we can tell you why we thought it shouldn't be. And then we can go from there. Otherwise, we'll be here for, we'll need our pajamas.
Trustee Rowan?
I'm not opposed to taking it back to have the discussion at policy. However, some of the reasoning behind why we made some of these decisions, we've already kind of had those discussions, and I'd be happy to explain some of those now if that's something that the board would be interested in hearing.
I think that we're always interested, Melissa, in having you hear it. I'm just trying to take a look at what's the best process, because there are a number of policies that we're going to go ahead and take a look at, and I think that there's probably a number of discussions that Don is itching on his seat to go ahead and have the conversation for. So I'm just trying to balance is when is the best possible, what's the best use of everyone's time? Do I think that your points and Don's points, and it's fine if the policy committee doesn't agree with some of the things that Trustee Nicol is thinking, but as of right now, when Don did call me, yes, he can go ahead and do this. Preferably, we would have this all ahead of time so that we can all see it and know that, as opposed to sit here. So I guess I'm just thinking that it's probably better that we have, that this goes back to policy committee, and maybe you invite Trustee Nicol there, and the policy, then your committee, Melissa, you bring it back to, and again, it's up to the board to vote on it. Not everyone's going to agree with what we're saying, but then you can bring the policy, but you'll have the opportunity, we will have had the opportunity to have that little debate amongst the policy committee, and if Don still thinks that he wants to keep it in relevancy and the policy committee says no, then we bring it to a vote and the board will decide.
Can I ask for some feedback then on how to proceed with this in the future? Because it's my understanding that typically you would bring these changes to the meeting along with the minutes, have some of the reasoning given, and then a vote would potentially be had. So moving forward, rather than having these types of situations come up where we bring these forward to the board and then they get sent back to policy committee to review each month, I would just like some guidelines on how to make sure that we are streamlining this process going forward.
Yeah, so I think that my personal opinion is that we would ask Trustee Nicol, is that as this comes out, is Trustee Nicol to respond so that we can get it into our board package so that there is an understanding. Now, again, people can go ahead and debate things, certainly around the table as to what it is, but I hear yourself loud and clear. But I think that if at all possible, the idea is that once you get your package, is that if there's, Don did tell us that from the past time, that last time, that he was going to go ahead and bring some things up. Part of probably I should have said, hey Don, can you put this in writing to us early so that the policy committee can then have some kind of debate over it? That would probably help us. And so that we're not kind of now thinking, I think the policy committee said, hey, we've had lots of time to debate it, and now all of a sudden somebody's coming in asking the questions. It would help if we had these questions earlier. I see the heads nodding, and that's probably where we would like to be. Is that fair with everybody? So I think that's the direction, I think, for us to go, Melissa. So I think, Don, there's a lot, again, you give me a heads up today, but it seems like there's going to be lots of debate, certainly, or lots of discussion around that. So I think that if you can get to the policy committee, whether you put it in writing or go to the policy committee and have that discussion, that's up to the policy committee. I think they invite him or ask it from him in writing, and then absolutely have that discussion with us. Are we good with that? Are we good, Donna, with this process? Donna, you good with that?
Yes.
Lorraine, you good with that? Dustin?
I'm not sure in the sense that we voted for the policy committee. And so the trustees that were voted to attend the policy committee, and usually if we do have our practices is we do have another trustee attend, that they're silent in the, as part of the committee. So I'm not sure we open ourselves up then for all 9 trustees to attend every meeting and to provide feedback when we've already elected a policy committee to do that.
Yeah, so I don't think that we're ever going to have 9, I hear you, I don't think that we're ever going to have 9 trustees that are coming. I think that the prudence would have been for Trustee Nickel to give it to you ahead of time once you would have gone ahead and seen that. I didn't give him that heads up as to where we were going, but I think that if I didn't agree with something, probably the best thing would be to come to you with, hey, here's some of the things where it is. Again, people do have a chance to sit down here today and talk and have this conversation, so they can do this. To be more efficient, if we did it ahead of time, it would work. But there's nothing wrong with, he is bringing up parts there that we would just like to, if he would have brought it up. I think that it would have been better for us if it would have tried to happen a little bit earlier. He did give us a heads up about it. He did talk about it, a little while ago. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, Dustin, as to what it is. I just think that would help us. Anything more you want to say? Melissa?
I guess I follow a little bit of Dustin's sentiments there, so I guess I would ask Dawn if you could please provide us with the feedback and we'll review it. I just want to make sure that we're being respectful of everyone's time as well, because our policy meeting did go the full 2 hours last time in reviewing what we had. So I just want to make sure that we're being cognizant and respectful of everyone's time when we're going through this process.
Totally fair. Robin?
That's why I did give you a heads up 2 weeks ago, because I didn't know how to proceed, and I said I got lots to talk about. So at that time, no one said, well, you can't talk about it at the board meeting. So but I know I couldn't send it to you directly, and unless you can't make the decision on your own. Anyway, I knew you'd have to call another meeting, and I knew the meeting was on the 14th. So the way it's transpired is probably the best way that we can. And I don't mind writing it down. Everything that I've got written down here, I just have to type it up so you can read it. And that's all.
Yeah, so I think maybe part of it, I'm going to own a little bit of this, is the fact is that I probably should have directed to Dawn and said, hey, Dawn, send it to the policy committee, give it to the policy committee. They can understand if they need to get clarification back and forth as to where they are. I think that probably 2 weeks ago or even 3 weeks ago, I probably should have done that so that we're not, because this conversation could be going on for a little while how we do it here. So I suggest we do that, and I think that if we try to get information to people ahead of time so that we don't, we're not in this situation. Fair enough? Okay. Thank you. So we're going to defer that, and then Dawn and Trustee Nickel and the policy committee to get that information. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
There is a motion on the floor, so I guess we'd have to have a motion to defer. So I'll make that motion. We can do it by show of hands. That will defer to till after we have our next policy meeting.
Okay. So all in favor then of a motion. No, the motion, and then seconded by Melissa to defer it. Thank you for doing this. All those in favor to defer? Okay, so it's carried. Thank you. You got all that right, Sarah? Perfect. There we go. Okay, so we're not going to do anything in policy number 2. You said you withdrawn policy number 3 and policy number 12. So we move on down to so the only thing that we have, I guess 8:20, we talk about signing authority. So to let you know, for the month of November with the Finance Committee. So I'm doing the signing authority, so the Finance Chair. So Trustee Nichols, is there anything from the Finance Committee minutes that you would like to go ahead and report to the board?
No, the minutes are there, the last one, so there's nothing I want to say. It's everything, all the information is there. Our next meeting is November the 21st.
Any questions about Finance Committee about the minutes? Okay. So we have a check register, so be it resolved that the board received the September 2024 check register with a total amount of checks of $3,375,856.59 received on October 17th by the Finance Committee for information as submitted. I need to move in a second, or moved by Trustee Nichol, second by Trustee Boytson. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll vote. Thank you. It passed 7-0. Education Foundation, we postponed the meeting or canceled the meeting because there was a few of us that couldn't attend. We have an upcoming meeting date of November the 28th, correct? So there's no new information coming out of the foundation. Just for the public known, at the Divisional PAC, Jody did give some information at the Divisional PAC meeting about the foundation, and we'll wait for more news on the 28th. The Ad hoc Land Planning Committee Chair, so Trustee Rowan, anything from the Land Planning Committee?
Just that we have an upcoming meeting with Gordon Damon on the 28th of November.
Okay, thank you. So we have professional development, 9 information, CSBA Congress, that's there. So we have written reports from Trustee Rowan and Trustee Harris from the Divisional PD. Just so you know, is that I did send a memo out, and I was reminded very quickly from 2 of our trustees that not indemnity bylaw, but our indemnity bylaw states that yes, we do need to reports, but the reports don't have to be made as quickly as I had suggested. So thanks for reminding me that, right, Robin? Okay, and so certainly do get those in. We have 2 of them there. Thanks for Melissa and Robin for getting yours in. Trustee Nichol.
I think according to our bylaw, there is no need for a report, because the provincial PD to me, is not a PD for trustees. If we're going to a PD for trustees, then we should make the report. But this was a PD for the staff, and we were just there, just seeing what was happening. So I don't think, going to our bylaw, that we have to make a report.
Anyone else comment?
And when I did send you the email, I did make a suggestion that when we do the bylaw, I think we have to determine PD and community engagement, because I believe that was what we did that day, was community engagement. We didn't even have to sign up for courses, because a lot of the courses were made for staff, not for trustees. So I think we have to make that determination too, and go from there.
Thank you for clarifying that. Are we, is our policy committee taking a look at our indemnity bylaw? You are? Okay. And the finance committee is doing it as well? Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Any comments on that from anyone? Trustee Rowan?
So I'll just comment on a couple things here. I did do a report, and I did it pretty quick just because I wanted to do it while it was fresh in my mind. And the reason that I made the report that I did is because there weren't minutes from this. I look at things like our Northeastman Forum, and there are minutes. So for the trustees that aren't there, they can catch up on those things there. And that's a big part of why I created this report when I did, just for those that either weren't in attendance or weren't able to attend the sessions that I did. The other thing that I just want to comment on from my report is that in the course that I took on assistive technology, I found out that ICT does not routinely add Microsoft Edge or Microsoft Lens to our devices, but these would both be beneficial for our students that do need assistive technology. So it may be something that we want to look at, potentially talking to ICT about looking into adding those.
This report that you put together, where were you when I was taking my master's degree about getting, like, this is amazing. This is a really good report. I'm glad that I didn't add my paragraph that I was going to go ahead and write as to, like, you did a really good job. Thanks very much, Melissa. This was awesome. And of course, Trustee Harris, again, thank you for doing that, but it's pretty impressive. So thanks, Melissa. Nice work. And thanks for sharing. Anyone else want to comment? I will let you know that when I write a report about something, it's not going to have Trustee Rowan's flair to it. So, but you did a good job. Nice work. We have a divisional financial summary report. It's there for information. Any questions for Jody about it? Okay. There's board correspondence there. There's nice to know information with lots of activity going on within our schools. Thanks for that. Pretty good write-up in the Clipper, certainly about the day of Sunrise Learning Day. Nice putting that. Nice little article, putting trust in school trustees. Good seeing all those bits of information. Upcoming meeting November 19th and December the 3rd. Jody, do we have any questions from the public?
No new questions from the public online via email, but I believe we have some.
Okay, gentlemen, here's your opportunity, etc. Come on up to the microphone if you have a question from the public. This is where you are.
Great. Hi, my name is Kevin Gies, and
Chris Gazenzer.
Currently we're with the Sunrise Coyotes football club. We're both coaches for them for the past number of years. We just had a little blurb about the Sabres football team, and our question comes with a little bit of a statement. We were unaware that we were going to be able to present this, but
I'll be clear is, you're not really able to present. You can ask questions. So if you want to become a board delegation and present something to us, there's a way to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Really I think what I asked you is you can question stuff that's happened during the meeting, those kind of things. You talked to me a little bit before about a question about how do you become a team or those kind of things. I'll give you the question. If you want to present, we'll give you an opportunity to present following the process and going through Jody, and we'll listen to you for 10-15 minutes about stuff as to where you are. But I think that we're giving you the floor because you've got a question that you'd like to go ahead and ask, and we'll go from there.
Fair enough, then I'll get straight to it. We're looking at starting a high school football team at Edward Schweier, part of the Winnipeg High School Football League. And we want to know, we're just getting this thing started. We want to know if can get approved or get basically a thumbs up, and who do we need to talk to besides Lonnie Liskey, who's the principal for Edward Schweier, and if there's any other information that we need to know.
So I'm going to turn it over to our superintendent, Mr. Reed, because he'd be the fellow that, go ahead, Trev.
Thanks. So first of all, thanks for your interest in starting a new program. You know, for the students at Edward Schweier School, I know it was just recently they started the program at Springfield Collegiate, and it's starting to draw from other areas in Sunrise. So it's exciting that you feel that you've got kind of that sort of talent and commitment coming down the pipeline with some of your younger players. I know I've heard from some of the parents at Beausejour Earlier School. So yeah, it's an exciting option. Really, your conversation, the overwhelming majority of it will be with Mr. Liskey. And so starting any team at the school level is going through the school. You know, our board chair and myself, when I was principal at Powerview 3 years ago, we started the high school hockey team, and that did not require any sort of divisional approval. It's a school-based decision. That's where that conversation happens. Now, just to give you the heads up, probably one of the things that you're going to want to involve in your conversation is, as I sit here thinking, some sort of those facility and maybe startup pieces, and maybe you're coming back to the board looking, well, we've got soccer goals out on the field, but we need to get up a set of football goalposts, right? And, what does that look like? Startup cost for a football team with equipment is, potentially, quite expensive. And where's that coming from? So those would be all conversations that you'd have with Mr. Liskey. And I would say I would encourage you to have those kind of as soon as possible. Because you may have heard our board chair mention earlier this evening, we're actually starting to get into those budget conversations. And if anything was going to be considered, we would want to be considering those requests January, February at the very latest. Absolutely. Yeah, January is probably preferable, right? So, yeah.
Basically, I was going to talk to Mr. Liskey, but I knew this was coming up, so we figured we'd come here first and see what directions we need to take for that.
Yeah, we weren't really sure as to where to start, who to talk to.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things that was on our board agenda tonight was, what do we call it? Student activity report. And part of it is it's really wanting to know what's going on in our schools, all the different things from clubs to sports to activities, and what we're excited about giving kids an opportunity in the classroom, and then being student athletes or any of those other kind of things. So I think there's lots of us go ahead and support those kind of things, because again, proof is we talk about it on a regular basis, and we're pretty proud of some of those kind of things. So yeah, I think what Trevor said is talk with Lonnie, and I wouldn't leave this long. If you're coming back to us and wanting us to consider something, don't ask us to consider something in February. No, you need to be us talking to us as soon as possible as to where things are. And again, anytime that we can provide opportunities for our kids to do things, yeah, let's go ahead and give it a shot and see what we can do. All right, guys, thanks very much. Yes, come on, absolutely.
Okay, I got a question. Normally I say comment, but I do have a question, and it is about the retro pay. Is it my understanding, I guess it'd go through the chair to Jody, is it my understanding that the retro pay will come on the same paycheck as teachers' normal pay?
Yeah, we're planning to do that. We're trying to make sure that the system can accept both retro pay at the same time. Right now, because of the way the system's set up, it wasn't letting us, so we're modifying it. I would know more by the end of next week. So, but it will be coming. Yeah.
So further, their normal salary that comes out on the 15th of November, they're going to have their normal salary plus the retro pay on one check together, or is it going to be two separate checks?
How about I take that back with the question to payroll, because we were looking into seeing if it's going to come on the same pay stub. Again, we might have to modify the system. So I can respond to you probably later on. Today's Tuesday. I think the goal was by Friday we would know if it's on the same pay stub or same pay day on two different checks. So I'll let you know that information later on.
Perfect, because then my follow-up is a comment. If it could at all be possible that it comes on two separate paychecks or two separate pay stubs, that would be greatly appreciated. The problem that we've been having in the past is that when the retro pay comes on the same pay stub as your paycheck, it looks like you're making this amount of money and then the government takes this amount instead of this amount, and teachers have already been waiting multiple years to get the retro pay. So I know we all get the money back in April, but when we've already been waiting so long, it makes everybody happier. So I would love for you to consider that, and it seems like you already have. So yeah, I'd love to touch base with you about that whenever you get that data. Thanks.
The only thing that I would suggest is, Jody, however we're going to do it, is that get to Trina and Serena, talk to Serena and just let her know, and then it's about how we're going to communicate that to our staff.
Yeah, I think it's important. We're working on a memo that would communicate that. Again, some of the systems that we work with don't let us modify. So again, we're going to look into it. I'm very aware a lot of folks with retro pay, it makes them look like they're earning a lot more on that one pay stub, and sometimes you just can't get around it, unfortunately. But those are things that we were considering, yes.
All right, thanks, Serena. And then we have one motion from in-camera on 17.1. The motion is, be it resolved that the board approve the salary recommendations for the secretary, treasurer, and the assistant superintendent as per the discussion on November the 5th, 2024. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by trustee Boyton, seconded by trustee Rowan. Any comments to this? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. And thank you, it passed 7-0. So that's it for us with regard to adjournment. There's nothing, we don't need to go back into in-camera except for some feedback, but we can sign off of ours because we're going to adjourn our meeting. So we're going to adjourn at whatever, 9:10, 9:09. Thank you.